Is there no music? Hi.
Welcome.
Hey guys, welcome to our episode 2 of Weather Exposed. What we're going to be talking about today is all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to talk about kind of the winter outlook here, where we're at with that and how we think that's going to kind of evolve, and kind of look at some myths. I'm going to share with you some things on, just folklores and, things that people swear by on the winter forecast. And I think it'll be fun to discuss. So, everybody knows everything about winter.
Everything.
I mean,
There's nothing new anymore.
we know everything in the farmer's almanac and all that good stuff. What's that thing saying, anyways? Nathan, why don't you take a look at?
Probably Arctic cold and 57 inches of snow.
Yeah, I mean
it's always Arctic cold.
biting cold.
Biting cold.
Yeah, let's look at both of them and see what we got. I think last year we called it penetrating cold.
There's a new adjective every year.
That's strange.
It is
I don't
strange.
know about you, but I don't really want penetration of cold.
Nope, I'm good.
Sounds, a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
But hey, guys, so for those of you that are watching on the live part of the website, there's a Q&A down there at the bottom, or there's a chat at the bottom. You can ask questions. Awesome. There is also, is it sharing my screen right now?
Yeah, I'm seeing your screen.
Okay. There is also you can tweet us using the hashtag BAMWX podcast. Go ahead and make a tweet real quick, Kurt.
Yeah.
We can, if you got questions as you go, we can kind of get into this. So here we go. Is this the new one?
This is the Farmer's Almanac for this year.
Oh, wonderful. All right. So that's interesting. Yeah, send that to me, Nathan. Send it. So we'll get that up there, and then look at the new one too. So there's 2 Farmer's Almanacs. I don't know why, but there are, and apparently one's better than the other. I don't know, but we'll look at those and just kind of chat about what we're seeing, what could be different this year, and so on and so forth. So let's kind of scroll through. Hey, Kirk is throwing. Huh? Yeah, I think so. Yep. So what we'll kind of do is, first thing I'd like to do is take a look at, Jim Smith. If you're in here, it does work. Yeah, I see that. Welcome, Jim Smith.
Very nice. It's a great feature.
Yeah, so please feel free to tune in on that chat. I think Kirk just tweeted out that link.
Yep.
And we're going to do some discussion here on the good old winter outlook. So if you have questions, shoot them over. I think the first thing that might be on a lot of people's minds is, all of these what we call folklores. And if you go, I think you can. I have my Facebook pulled up. I don't really care who sees it. But what I did is I asked people today to send us pictures of the persimmon seeds, the worms,
Everything. Yeah.
Anything. What's that? Okay, good. Nathan's in. Hello, Nathan. But anything that we can kind of come up with to get some ideas on winter.
Take all the help we can get.
And so this is the first one that we got. And for those of you that are just listening, we're seeing all colors this year. Everybody keeps saying we're seeing white, we're seeing black. We've seen all
Central Indiana, is that where this is?
Yeah, this is out of Central Indiana. This one's a really big black one. So there's something going on with the sound. Just mute it.
Okay.
You just press that button right there. So am I not coming through mine? Okay. So, all right, guys. Sorry, working through some technical stuff there. You can talk when you're ready to talk there. So what we're looking at is, sorry, we're just working through this. This is our second one. I'm about ready to pick this mic up and throw it out the window and break the damn window. So, hey, let's look at this. We see this big black willy worm. And the myth is, and you guys can kind of touch on this when you're ready to tune in, but the myth is this means a cold and harsh winter. What are your thoughts on that, Kirk?
I think it has black willy worms every year. and it may be right once out of 25 years. So hey, but people remember that year it's right.
Oh, what about you, Nathan? What do you think?
No, I saw actually several of those last fall. In fact, I think just about every woolly worm I saw was black, the big, thick black woolly worms. And, I thought, okay, that's a good sign. We're probably going to have a good winter this year. And, it really let me down, how last winter turned out. So,
Oh, yeah.
I don't really put a whole lot of trust in those predicting the winter forecast, but I mean, it's always interesting to see those. But
well, I don't know, guys. There's several of these. I mean, last year we had all the spoons in the. Now, if you're looking at my screen, we had all the spoons in the persimmon seeds. That usually mean you're shoveling snow. And we've had spoons for the last several years. Yeah. I mean, how many years can we have spoons and not shovel snow and people still think that?
Every year.
Yeah.
Every year it's going to be right. So
this year it's going to be right.
It is.
I'm telling this year's different.
Yeah. So are you?
I'm muted now.
Okay. For some reason, when you're talking, Nathan, I can't hear you.
Where's his mic? There it is.
I don't know. So anyways, but so this image here comes from the persimmon seed, and I think the knife means cutting cold, or the spoon is the shoveling snow.
Yeah.
And the fork is
stick a fork in us.
I don't know. Stick a fork in it. Yeah, we're all gonna roast. I don't know.
That should have been last year.
We had another picture that came in, and this one was interesting. This one was white. I'm not sure. I don't even know what that means.
Hairy.
I would guess maybe that people are going to freeze to death.
Yeah, I know white means snow is related to snow when they.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe the white means a lot of snow. If you guys can't hear Nathan, which I don't think you can. But I think white means a lot of snow.
And then the black one means severe cold or severe winter. So
gotcha.
Okay. All right. What does brown mean then?
Mild, I think.
No good.
The thickness of the band.
Yeah. Thickness of the band.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I mean, you guys could comment on this. I mean, yeah, this is Matthew says awesome winter weather insight. I mean, this is why we get paid.
Yeah.
We analyze the willy worms and the persimmon seeds.
Could you imagine if every winter forecast was just based off this? Yeah. I guess that's better than a free weather app. I don't know.
The scary thing is I think I know some that are.
True.
I see a lot of hickory nuts. I know that's a sign.
It's a sign of harsh winter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Squirrels are busy right now.
The other thing that is what's the guys, help me out here, the foggy mornings.
Yeah.
We say, okay,
August, I think it is.
all the number of fog days in the morning is the number of snow days that you'll see in November or December or winter, I think, over winter or something. Or the number of cobwebs, spider webs. If you have more spider webs, or if you fart a certain way
or burp,
I think the polar vortex comes down.
Yeah. Let's get going on that.
We can't hear Nathan very well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you're.
I don't have a mic.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I guess just using my built-in mic.
We'll figure it out. At any rate, so there's so many different things in terms of just myth, and the number one thing, I want to go and show you a couple things. There are so many different computer models that that we have access to that will show you the winter outlook, and those things, they'll vary run to run, day to day,
multiple times a day.
Yeah, I mean that you've got the American model that runs, I don't know, like 36 times an hour, and it'll put out a forecast for winter every time it updates. So if you're just posting model runs, you're gonna be chasing your tail.
Yeah, you're gonna be chasing it every day.
So what's your opinion on the CFS?
I like, at least with its current runs, I like the wet active pattern. A lot of these models, they have a similar location of where the above normal precipitation is, just based on Pacific jet stream pumping in that moisture Pacific Northwest into the Ohio Valley. In terms of its variability, though, on a daily day-to-day basis, it can make you pull your hair out. You want to use the trends, and it's an idea, it's a tool in the shed. It's not gospel by any means.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. We got naked girls that are trying to get in the podcast right now. I guess winter's a hot commodity around here.
It's the big thing.
They're wanting to get in on the, we don't, there's no visuals here, so I don't know why,
I mean, we're good looking.
yeah. If you want to be naked on our podcast, that's your own prerogative. But no, yeah, the wives wouldn't like that. I don't think I would appreciate that very much. But, and looking at these forecast models, in particular, the CFS V2, it's very popular, very free model. Anyone can access it at any time. And I think it's a good tool. It's a tool in the shed, and, you can take a number of an average of multiple runs and maybe look at them and get a general idea. If I look at it right now, this is the average of 40 different runs over the course of 10 days. And if I looked at that right now, I'd say that looks like my winter outlook. That looks like our winter forecast.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean it's reasonable.
It is reasonable,
given
how La Nina acts.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Just keep it unmuted. So, I think it's reasonable for a look like this. Now, the look that it's showing, for those of you that are listening, is, overall a colder, snowier Midwest, Great Lakes, possibly interior Northeast, and much colder than the last two winters.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the big key this year is, even if it's a normal winter for many, it's going to be way colder.
Absolutely.
Last winter we were, what were we on, Chris? It was like 60.
Yeah, it was warm and stormy and rainy, if I remember right.
For most people.
For most, yeah.
So if you go for a high of 35 on Christmas compared to 65,
people are not going to know what they're going to do with themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Nathan says the year before was warm. Feel free to talk into the mic, Nathan. But Nathan says, yeah, the year before was warm. And so, I think it's just I
think we forget.
We do. And I think perception is reality.
Yeah.
People, the weather, as they perceive it, is how they see that it comes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think people think that it's not going to be cold in winter anymore.
So, yeah. I think, with respect to these folklores and these persimmon seeds and all this stuff, quite honestly, I don't think there's any skill to it at all. I mean, I think they're fun. I think it's interesting to watch.
Gets us talking about winter.
Yeah. But in terms of anything, I wouldn't put any stock into it. So Nathan sent me the Farmer's Almanacs. So let's take a look at that. You're probably going to be able to see my text messages here and whatever. No big deal. Let's see. I don't know why my texts aren't popping up. Clicking on them, but can't get them to come up. Here we go. I got them. All right,
Well,
so here they are. It's, Nathan, where'd you send them to?
The other chat there.
There we go. All right, so you guys probably, can you see this?
Yep.
Can they see the screen?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so look at this. This is the Old Farmer's Almanac. And so we get questions about these all the time and how they're, you have the Old Farmer's Almanac, you have the New Farmer's Almanac. It looks like they used some different wording this year.
Yeah.
I don't see any wild
Barbaric.
Yeah, penetration.
Yeah.
things like that. So that's always a good sign. But you see, the Old Farmer's Almanac says mild and snowy.
Huh.
And so I don't know how you can be mild and snowy, but maybe with respect to normal.
Maybe. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, interpret this math, Kirk.
It doesn't look good for snow, folks. On to 2018. Not very good, unless you're in the Midwest, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's so if you're listening to us from the ag, in the ag belt through the central United States, it says mild and snowy.
Yeah.
Another thing is, why would it be cold and snowy down in Tennessee and
Yeah.
down in the Dixie, but yet up here in Ohio Valley
Yeah.
it's mild and wet?
Very good point. It can't be
really explain
colder
that.
in Tennessee than North Dakota, folks.
I don't know.
But then we have this magical mild and dry section
Yeah.
of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Listen,
be
if
in Minnesota.
Minnesota is mild this winter,
We're moving.
I'll quit. I'll quit doing this. You won't hear from me anymore.
Yeah. Can't even go to Alaska anymore. It's mild and dry.
Then you have the new Farmer's Almanac. Mild and dry. You got the new Farmer's Almanac that's cold and snowy in the Northeast, cold and average snowfall in the Midwest,
I'd take that.
and then cold with moderate snowfall and not as harsh as usual in the plains. Can someone send these guys a wake-up call? When's the last time we had a harsh winter?
You'll hear crickets, man. I don't know.
Am I hearing crickets right now?
Nope.
Okay. I mean, come on. It's harsh winter. Give me a break. So the other guys that released something today was AccuWeather. I had that in here somewhere.
Yeah. You can scroll up or something.
I don't know what I did with it, but I thought I had it anyways. Let's see. Is it in our group message?
Yeah, it's on the BAM Mets.
Let's see. I'm not going to show it, but theirs was pretty much the same, cold and snowy, as kind of the going thought process for winter right now. So that's interesting. I mean, I think what's important is getting a good perspective on what to expect in terms of realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And the way we look at some of this stuff is we call them correlations. This is a correlation using the MEI, which is the multi-enzo index.
Yep.
Okay, multivariative enzo index. And for those of you that are just listening, is what we're seeing here is the correlation for a negative MEI, or AKA La Nina.
Yeah.
It's warmer to the south and colder to the north and west.
Yeah.
And the correlation is somewhat strong, especially across northern Minnesota, the northern plains. It's not a bad correlation for that's where the coldest air would be confined, is the northern plains in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would be warmer down around Texas and the southeast. But guys, these correlations work wonders because, you look at these events and how they've performed and how strongly they have an influence on the pattern.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kirk, what do we got here? What's this next one here? We got the QBO.
QBO, so the quasi biannual oscillation index. So a lot of people associate the QBO thinking, boy, if you get a negative QBO, you get a lot of high latitude blocking, get a lot of cold air possibly dislodged into the eastern half or the northern half of the United States. And we've done a lot of research. Our company's done a lot of research to kind of debunk that. The QBO years, they vary. The negative QBOs vary. Some of them have a lot of high latitude blocking. What do we mean by high latitude blocking? So that's high pressure. Think about high pressure up near Greenland. And what it does is it locks pressure systems in. It shoves colder air down across the eastern United States. And when you don't have high latitude blocking, you get a lot of patterns to just go west to east. There's nothing to keep them locked in. So we kind of debunked the negative QBO. There's some years that have high latitude blocking and keep that cold in, and some years where it's all transient. What we found, though, is that the negative QBO allows the polar vortex to weaken easier. I think last year was a positive QBO. We didn't have any polar vortex events. Think of, I think it was 2014 when we had the massive cold outbreak, negative QBO. So it allows the polar vortex to weaken easier, colder shots, basically is. So that's kind of a difference maker between last year and this year, as we have a negative QBO now, better tap of cold air. That's a risk for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is there's a lot that goes into a seasonal forecast that you guys just don't ever even hear about, or even know about, or never even heard of.
Yeah, I'm sure most haven't.
Yeah, and so there's, as a private weather company, we have the time and the resources available to dive into this research and look at this stuff. And believe it or not, seasonal forecasting is actually very manageable on a responsible level, using the appropriate risks and the appropriate terminology.
Yes.
Now, it would be very stupid, to say this is going to be the winter pattern, and this is it.
Yeah, this is it. It's a tool.
Yeah, and I think the problem with these mainstream media winter outlooks, weather.com, AccuWeather, these bigger clickbait companies that their revenue is generated off of advertisement, is they don't explain that stuff.
No.
Unless you are a high-paying client of theirs behind the paywall.
Yeah.
The clickbait forecast is, tons of cold and tons of
Cold
snow,
and snowy.
whatever. I mean, it's, so it's hard to, and that puts a black eye on the meteorologist, on the forecaster, because there are risks involved and you have to explain them.
Yeah.
We go through and we look at other correlations. This is the angular momentum, the atmospheric angular momentum, a pretty strong correlation to pretty cold temperatures up across the North Plains and the Great Lakes, even a little bit down into the Ohio Valley and into the interior Northeast. Okay. And for those of you that may not be that good at math, or if you're very good at math, we're just using simple correlations here. Okay. How tightly correlated is the angular momentum measurement to the surface temperature,
and taking in past years, similar patterns, and what happened and where it correlated the strongest.
Yeah. So, Nathan, talk a little bit about what we're seeing here with the angular momentum and its correlation. What we got?
Yeah, we're seeing overall with the La Nina in play this winter, we're going to see an overall negative AAM through the winter, and that's really going to correlate to we see the trend towards colder temperatures favored here in the northern part of the U.S. with that active jet stream as well. And you'll notice also we have a warmer signal down here along the Gulf Coast and into the southeast. Again, that's actually a very similar look to our thinking and our forecast right now for the winter because of that La Nina in place. And this simply tells us, we're going to have an overall negative atmospheric angular momentum, which just means we're going to be more in a La Nina background state as we go into the winter season.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, Brian's talking to me. What'd you say, Brian? Oh, and mute it? Okay. So you can mute notifications on your computer. Can you believe that? All right. Beautiful. See you, bye. So, Nathan's talking about that's neat. Nathan's talking about the correlation of the angular momentum and the way it's been for most of the year. And I'm going to bring this up. I believe this is a good subject to discuss. It's the angular momentum is a strong pattern driver. It loses some of its moxie as you get into winter. The correlations are stronger in the summer months, but it's still a pattern driver. It's
when we say AAM, the key takeaways are El Nino or La Nina. That's what we're discussing when we talk about AAM.
In this negative angular momentum that you see is certainly one of a La Nina trait. And then you go here and you look at this, you look at our analog years over a 6-month time scale, and you see that the average, which is this blue line, you see that the average of those years as we rumble through all the way out into the end of winter, all the way out into spring, the average is where we've been with the analog packages, that we would hold a negative angular momentum throughout the course of winter.
Yeah.
And so that gives us an idea that we say, hey, let's look at the correlation and see what happens normally with a negative angular momentum during the winter.
Yep.
And that's the look that we get. And the final one is the SOI.
Yeah.
And this is the Southern Oscillation Index. We use this all the time with our clients. The Southern Oscillation Index, if used properly. Now, I will tell you, there are sources out there that do not use it correctly. They think they do, but they don't. If used properly, it can be a good tool. And you can see the correlation to that is also colder. So what's the general theme here for those of you listening? The general theme is that all correlations, all signs point to colder.
Yep.
Not incredible cold. We're not talking record cold or anything like that yet. The thing that may be the wrench in all this is if this polar vortex is weak and can get broken down and sent into the U.S. several times this year, then we could be cold.
Yeah, that's a big risk. And the strength of the southeast ridge, that's a key La Nina trait.
Yeah.
Think of last year. You think of pumping in warm air. You think rain versus snow lines, I-70 corridor, snow versus rain. That's key things that happen in the southeast ridge.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you see, risk for sure.
You see all the general themes here, though. The general themes are there, and so that brings us to our preliminary outlook for winter. And this is what we have right now. We've had this since mid-September. We'll keep this for now. We'll reevaluate mid-October, this month here, actually, Jesus, in about a week. Yeah. And we'll, the area that we kind of left open for interpretation is right through here. Yeah. We kind of said and for those of you listening, it's right through the Ohio Valley, up in the interior northeast, and even a little bit closer towards the coast. We left that open for interpretation or for change, equal chances, because you get the strength of the southeast ridge. If the ridge down to the south and east is very strong and it flexes, it's going to usher in warm air, and you're going to have a problem. Now with the extended Pacific jet stream, if we can get the cold air supply and this southeast ridge is a little bit weaker, there could be a ton of snow. There could be a lot of snow. And I think if I had to highlight an area where I think there could be a lot of snow in terms of above normal, I would say something right now along the lines of this. All right. And for those of you who cannot see, of course, I'm highlighting the area as I go through the Great Lakes, Iowa, northern half of Illinois, Indiana, northern Ohio, along the Great Lakes of the interior Northeast, and all of the Great Lakes. That's where I think it could be an I-70 special kind of year where a lot of the above normal snowfall could come down in this area.
Yeah.
Chicago, Minneapolis.
Yeah. I mean, consider too how warm the lakes are. You get an intrusion of cold air. You get lake effect snow machine all winter. That's a risk too, for sure.
Wasn't the water temperatures?
Mm-hmm.
What were those like?
They were warm. What were they? 60, 70?
I think we're in the 60s.
60s still. So, and we're getting into mid-October.
And they trended a lot warmer
Yeah.
the second half of September because we had a big heat
Yeah,
wave.
we've been warmer, and the warmer we sustain, the longer potential we have for a lake effect snow, for sure.
Yeah, so my God, you send an Arctic front over the water in December.
You get 20 inches of snow, easy.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be fun.
yeah.
And then the precipitation outlook is much above normal for much of the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and the interior Northeast. We'll probably stick to that.
Yeah.
Strong model consensus, strong analog consensus on
Now,
that.
this doesn't mean a lot of snow or below normal snow. A lot of people think, I've got above normal precipitation. That means I'm going to get a lot of snow. It really has not much to do with it, because you can have warmer risks but still have above normal precipitation and just get a lot of rain. So it's a risk for sure. But also, if you get a lot of cold air and above normal rainfall, you do get a ton of snow. So
Understand our guest is on here. We're going to get him on in about 30 seconds. Chuck, we'll patch you in here in just a second. But, to wrap this up before I bring in our guest here, Chuck Bell, he's an emergency management director out of Tipton, Indiana. We're going to talk to him about weather and how weather is important to his job and what he uses weather for. But to wrap this all up, I think that this winter has potential to be much colder, snowier, and more active. The question is it going to be Minneapolis?
where?
Chicago,
Yeah.
Indy, or Cincy?
Yeah,
I don't know.
$1,000,000 question.
For those of you along the East Coast, I don't know.
Warm Atlantic waters there could play an impact, keep things warmer.
Yeah,
certainly could.
Yeah. So with that said, let's bring in Chuck. Chuck, are you there?
I am.
Awesome, man. Hey, we appreciate you having you on today. And for those of you that don't know, this is Chuck Bell, and he is are you the EMA director, Chuck?
I am the EMA and the 911 director here in Tipton.
Okay, yeah. So he's directing the emergency management and all that stuff there in Tipton, Indiana. And so I wanted to bring him on and kind of get some perspective from Chuck. And Chuck has been a client of ours here for a little bit. And Chuck, are you ready for some snow or what?
You know what? The little kid in me is, but the director in me is not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I'm curious with your job and everything you're responsible for. When it snows and you're in charge of keeping all these people safe and all that, what is it like for you?
It's really about preparation as much as anything else. I mean, once the snow starts to fall, after that, it's almost like a kind of a cleanup and maintenance thing. It's the preparation beforehand and making sure that people know the best way to handle the weather and not really get out in those heavy snowfalls unless they have to. So the lead time for us is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a struggle nowadays is with social media and your job and just relaying the forecast. I feel like there's an overload of information and people, they see so many different forecasts,
There's an overload of information in anything anymore because of social media and the ease of access of information, some good, some bad. So what I've really tried to do here over the last several years is kind of not necessarily just try to point people to our Facebook page and our information, because that's what's going to impact, potentially impact Tipton and impact what we're going to do. Try to give them that information and not try to drive them to one single point for us, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's a struggle for
sure.
Anything.
It is.
I mean, it's
any industry for sure.
It's social media has changed the game.
Yeah.
It's
info at your fingertips.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
And not always good info.
No, it's not. That's very true.
that's a key. I mean, so these podcasts, we try to do is just voice our opinion on these, and there are so many fraudulent, fake, weather sources out there that you really got to be careful with, because you come across them, you might think they're really putting out some good stuff.
Yeah.
And it may just be off the wall.
You don't know their experiences. You don't know who they are, their intentions. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that we take it is I just kind of put the information out there. I sort of condense what the information I get from you guys and put it into simpler, quick terms that people, can kind of just breeze through, and hopefully they take it to heart when we tell them, hey, tomorrow's not going to be a good day. That's kind of what we sort of go for. If anything's going to impact travel or work or school or anything like that, we try to stay on top of.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say, Chuck, that with respect to, we have a tornado warning, and you have some of these rural areas and urban areas, and we've even talked about this. What's your biggest challenge when you have those sirens go off and there's a tornado coming, but it's only in the very northwestern section of the county, and you have the entire county reacting? What are your biggest challenges with that?
The biggest challenge is getting people actually to heed the warnings or to stay kind of weather aware prior to that warning going off. And one thing we try to do again is just try to really hit our Facebook page hard of saying, okay, there's a tornado warning, but it's for the northwestern part of the county. And we still get our flood of phone calls in the 911 center, how come the sirens aren't going off, or are we under it? And and again, it just goes back to the same thing you said. It's accurate information, or as accurate as possible in the quickest amount of time. So
Yeah.
I don't know that you'll ever solve that problem.
Yeah, I've pulled up my screen here real quick because I want to show some people what we're talking about. So a lot of times you'll get a tornado warning, and it'll cover a certain part of the county, and it'll cover basically all of Tipton, Kempton, Indiana, Sharpsville, Windfall City, and you have all these places that are in the path of this tornado warning. And in all reality, this storm is going to travel a path, that's going to completely ignore almost 75% of what that tornado warning is.
Such a small area.
Yeah, and so I feel like that is extremely challenging, and man, I'm looking forward. I'm sure you are too, Chuck. I'm looking forward to the day that they can shrink these.
Yeah, find a better solution.
Right.
Help you guys out.
Yeah.
Now we try, even during those times, we obviously try to tell everybody to stay, aware of the weather and the changing conditions. But we deploy our resources and kind of focus in that area that it appears to be the most potentially impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see Tipton, the 911. You guys are really active on social media, and there are so many other 911s and other entities here around the country that you would think would embrace more of the social media era to communicate their information. Why is it that you think they don't do that?
I think part of it is time. I think the other part of it is, let's just be honest, when you put something on social media, you open yourself up for comments, ridicule, and things of that nature. And I think that there's a natural fear for some people in that. And we started our Facebook page maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we were one of the first to get out of it. And I'm not going to say it was an easy task to convince the different other political entities in town and things like that to embrace this. And it did take some time for me to convince law enforcement and fire that I'm not going to put out, anything that's going to give away any sort of investigative purposes. It was really an information type page, but not information to where we're posting every single thing that happens. I really just focus on what's going to impact the community, the people, and get that information out quick and accurate, and then kind of let the other stuff sort of go. So you have to have a thick skin, as you guys probably know, for the comment. You can't be right all the time.
No, you can't. It's, gosh, it's funny. You can have the guy that the forecast is for 4 to 6 inches, and he got 3.2.
Yeah.
And or even 3.
Yeah.
And 3 inches of snow, and he's pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, "Where's my snow?" It's like,
it's hard to please everybody. I think another reason why a lot of folks don't in the emergency management field. I used to work for state government, Homeland Security, and there's just so many rules to posting on social media. There's so many different guidelines, what you can do and can't do. Most people just find it as a hindrance to do it. It's just, I just think some people see it as just something they just don't want to do because it takes too much time or there's too many rules against it. So that's just what I saw.
I agree with that. There are times where, especially if we have a major incident going on, it's really hard to get onto social media. I have several people that help me post things, but if we're all busy, it's hard to get the information out there quickly, and then archiving it is yet another issue. But I still feel it's a pretty valuable source, especially in the winter. When we want to start preparing the community for what potentially could happen, and start giving them tips on what to do. And if we have to open a shelter, obviously, or roads closed. I mean, I try to stick again to that information that can be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's on their phone these days, and with their Twitter app, you can choose a page to turn notifications on. So whenever you tweet, they get that notification instantly. And people just don't watch TV as much anymore, and they're turning to social media for the latest updates. I think that's a huge advantage for somebody in local government, where whatever they put out, a lot more people are listening to. It's a super valuable tool. I know you guys use that a lot. So
we definitely do, and it's easy. It's really easy to push that information across a few platforms. it's just, again, like I said, I have several people that are helping me, and that really helps, not just to be the single point to post those things.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Man, so Chuck, with you guys, and I know the Tipton up there, you have the fire department, the street department. Everybody up there's looking for a good forecast for you guys to use to keep the public safe there. And this is by no means a plug at trying to advertise our service, because that's not what this podcast is for. But when we send out, explain to me, when we send out a forecast, let's say you're going to get 6 inches of snow and, very cold and whatnot behind it. What does that look like for the city? What do you guys do in preparation for that?
What we do is I guess what we do is what a lot of communities do. We just have that lead time advantage by using your services. And again, this is something that, we look at as a team effort for all of us, but myself and the County Highway Department, Sheriff's Department, the Street Department, and everything like that, we'll kind of get together and sort of compare notes and decide a plan of action that's going to happen. And if the snow were to come together, and I can tell you this, that it's not just obviously we're coming up on the winter, so that's the big stress, but I can say that, and again, not plugging anything, but just reality, your guys' communication and everything like that was invaluable. Several pork festivals in a row that saved us from tremendous chaos, in my opinion. We were able to get ahead of the weather, and this year, thankfully, we had fantastic weather, so it wasn't a real big concern. But I think what we really use it for, use your guys' services for, is the lead time. I go back to that winter several years ago where 2 weeks out, I was calling meetings and we were preparing for a bad winter, and some of the other information sources were not saying it was going to snow a lot till the day it started snowing, and we were extremely ahead of the game with shelters and things like that. So the lead time to me is huge. And you know what? I tell people all the time, if they send me a nice message that says, "Oh, hey, it didn't snow at all," or "We only got 2 inches," my pat response almost every time is, "Well, thank goodness that didn't happen, because we weren't ready for 8 inches."
Yeah, because it's all about life safety. If
Right.
it doesn't snow to the max capacity of the forecast, it's a blessing. It's like when you issue a tornado warning and it doesn't produce a tornado, people aren't like, "Oh man, I wish there was a tornado." They're like, "Thank God there wasn't a tornado." So
I think the people that wish that have never encountered it or had to clean up
Yes.
afterwards.
absolutely.
So,
I tell you,
blessings.
you guys bring that up, and I want to know where do these people get the free time to say, "Hey, we didn't get a tornado. What the heck?"
Yeah.
I mean, or we got 1 inch of snow. We were supposed to get 3. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of understanding of the atmosphere, like what it takes to snow and to forecast snow is unbelievably difficult process.
I can definitely say this from a standpoint of a few organizations like our emergency management obviously relies heavily on volunteers, and everybody wants the snow and they want to know how they can help until it's time to help, and then they're kind of stuck and behind the ball. So I think it's a lack of information, and honestly, it's a lack of some people wanting to really know how it works, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I always think it's funny. It's like, well, you said we were going to get.
Yeah, it's a battle we're always going to face, unfortunately, because we're not going to be perfect. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
I'd rather be prepared and then sit around and do nothing than wake up to it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, Chuck, I appreciate you coming on today, man. You have anything that you think for those listening that is important for them to know when it comes to emergency management and 911 when it comes to weather?
The biggest things I can say is that to listen to what your local emergency management and public safety is kind of telling you. We're telling you to stay off the roads for a reason, especially in the wintertime. And I tell people all the time that if we do a travel advisory or something, based a lot of times on the information we receive from you guys, if we do that, there's a good reason behind it. And if you get stuck out there, it might be a minute before we get to you, because we try to give you the heads up.
Yeah.
So just listen.
Yeah, it's like everybody wants to drive in the floodwaters until they get in the flood and have to get pulled out.
That's a fact.
That's a fact, Jack. Well, hey, Chuck, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And
Thank you guys.
yeah, we look forward
Absolutely.
to working with you, man, and hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Chuck.
You guys also. Thanks.
All right. See you, Chuck.
Bye.
All right.
Awesome.
So, I just wanted to have somebody on. We've got about 15 minutes left. I don't know if we'll fill it or not, but I just wanted to have somebody on and get their perspective on winter forecast, because, and you guys can touch on this, but when you forecast rain for the northern half of the state, nobody cares unless you've got people doing pavement or trying to harvest,
Right.
things like that. But it's not a widespread event. You have to think about this, guys. When it snows, everybody is impacted.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's a blanket.
Yeah, it is. It's more widespread.
And so the magnification of it is much higher. It's very stressful.
Yeah, it is.
Forecasting snow.
Yeah.
It's so stressful.
Especially to wrap it back around when you have a southeast ridge. It pumps in that warm air, so the rain snow line, it moves. It's not consistent. Whereas if you have a year that doesn't have a southeast ridge, you're not going to have those warmer risks. You have all snow events. So it's just how much snow, how much liquid do we turn into snow versus are we mixing in warm air? Are we cutting down the totals? Is there going to be ice in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult. And it's something a free weather app or someone on TV, it just won't nail. It's just not going to happen.
I'll show you this. I want to show you guys something here for those of you that can't see. This is just an image of the state of Indiana, and you can literally have, let's say we have a snowfall forecast of 6 inches around Warsaw, Indiana, Rochester, Kendallville area, and around the northern half of the state. You could literally have places in here, even one little dot right here in just southeast of Plymouth that may only get 2 inches. And then you go over here, not even, 8 miles into North Manchester, and you might have 8.5 inches.
8 to 10.
Yeah, and then you go over here to Auburn, and you're close and Kirk's throwing stuff, spilling everything. Oh my God, Kirk, can someone get Kirk out of here? Then you go over to Auburn, and you could have 4.5 inches. I mean, the variability in this and how things go back and forth, and how it's a miracle that snow can even be remotely forecasted.
It is a miracle. It's when you're talking about anything doing in the future and doing it accurately, it's still mind blowing that you can even get an idea of where it's going to snow, how much it's going to snow. That's the big takeaway. I mean, if we forecast that area to get 4 to 6 inches and it verifies, that's a small miracle that happens. It really is. It's very. I would love to get a 4 to 6 inch snowfall. I don't remember what that feels like anymore.
Yeah. Something interesting about it. Keep in mind, snowflakes actually form in the clouds. It has to be between -12 and -18 degrees Celsius. And a lot of people will sometimes wonder, okay, it's 20 degrees at the surface, but we're getting rain actually falling and freezing on contact. And, that's the question. A lot of people wonder, how can it be 20 degrees and yet it's still not snowing? And, that's because snow has to form. It's a delicate process. You have to be at least, at the minimum, -10 in the clouds, but it needs to be more like -12 to -18 to produce the actual snowflakes. It's a delicate process. It's very fascinating, but challenging to forecast. And I think with the winter we're heading into, with potential for mixing events, it's just something to keep in mind. I think it's interesting that you can be, a few years ago we had an ice storm in 2011. I think the surface temperatures were around 20 degrees. and we had a big freezing rain event. So I just think that's interesting. Sometimes, you wonder how it could be 20 degrees, but yet
It's that what Nathan says is a great point, because you have to know that.
Yeah.
If it's 20 degrees outside and it's raining, you're wondering what in the devil is going on.
It can be 36 and just
dumping
pouring snow out.
Yeah.
We saw it last year. I think it was in Davenport, Iowa. It was 36 degrees. They got 8 inches of snow, and it was in November or December sometime.
But the thing is that frustrates me is this is not a mystery.
No, it's not a mystery.
If this happens, we know why it's happening. It's not like, oh my God, these weathermen, they suck.
Yeah,
they don't know anything.
You can see it pretty easily.
So it's important. Going into the wintertime, you want to know what's going to go on. Subscribe to our service.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to our service. So, guys, I'm gonna leave it open for a couple minutes of any questions. Would you make a mash tweet real quick? But anybody that has questions about the upcoming winter, where they're at, maybe there's something you're interested in terms of what you're going to get where you're at. So we invite the questions. Okay, we're going to kind of just kind of sit around and wait to see if anybody has any of them to ask. So. Well, I tell you what, talking about winter and snow, it makes me tired.
It is.
You
It's difficult. Well,
I'm ready for a nap.
When your day starts at 3 a.m., you get to noon and you're already on hour number 9. So
Ready to be done.
that's okay.
Yeah.
We love what we do.
We do, no doubt. Nathan, do you have any last minute comments on this whole winter fiasco?
not. I think we covered. I think we covered pretty much everything. It's we talked about a lot of really interesting folklore, which again, I don't think there's really any accuracy as far as any telling signs of what that's going to mean for the winter. It's just fun stuff to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And, we certainly have a challenging, I think we're going to have a challenging winter ahead of us with the active storm track within the region, with the southeast ridge we were talking about. That could be a blessing. That could be a curse as well. Bringing in the warm air, bringing in a lot of moisture. Fortunately, that can mean a lot of mixing events, a lot of headaches in the forecast where you can have really tricky between heavy snow versus ice versus plain old rain. And I think that's going to be something we're probably dealing with more this winter than what we saw the past few winters with all the warm temperatures that we saw. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes up. Definitely a La Nina-like pattern, it looks like, going into this winter.
If it's as warm as the last 2 winters, I've said before, I probably quit after this year.
10 inches, I think, is what we ended up with. And we got lucky to get there.
I'll retire.
That was one event we got up just over 4, or right at 4 inches, December the 13th.
January or December 2. That was tough. So it's not going to take a lot to be last year. So that's the thing we have going for us. A normal winter for Indianapolis is what was it? 25 inches. Yeah. So, man, if you get 20 inches, that's already double last year. So that'd be a good winter.
Last 3 years.
Yeah, last 3 years.
Kyle Morrow asks, what are you guys predicting for winter temps? Kyle, it depends on where you're talking about. The northern tier, I think, is going to be much colder than the last couple of years. South and southeast could be well above normal, especially down near Texas and places down in towards the Gulf Coast and things like that. But I think that overall, for most of the winter lovers out there, the feel is going to be much colder. Doesn't mean it's going to be below normal.
No.
It could even be at or slightly above.
Sure can.
And still be way colder than last winter.
Absolutely. Last winter was so far above.
And that's where our thoughts are. Yeah. That's what we're conveying to our clients right now is just because it's not extremely below doesn't mean it's not going to come off.
Or not going to have a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Either or. So
perception is reality.
It is.
So
I'm excited for it. I think as we get towards into November, into December, I think there's a lot of good signals that have cold. It's just fine tuning where.
Well, anything else, guys?
Somebody asks, how do you think southern and central Missouri are looking early on for potential snow? Missouri's tough. What do you think?
I would say right now, I think the research that we had showed would be a little bit below normal.
Yeah.
maybe if you're in far northern Missouri, your chances are a little bit better.
Further south you go, warmer risks, more rain versus snow is my thing.
That ridge to the south just scares me.
It's real.
That can really just, There are places with that ridge that may not get any snow this winter.
Yeah, when you think about the hard red winter wheat areas, that's real close to where that ridge is, that fine line where that ridge is setting up. And a lot of those areas rely on precipitation over the fall and the winter months. And if you stay drier in those locations, if you're going through fall dry and you go through winter dry and we have a La Nina into next spring, that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, you don't want to go into next planting season dry. With that ridge to the south, it's on the table. I don't think you can completely throw that out down there. So it's highly dependent on how much cold air we get and where the source of moisture comes from. But it's a risk.
Yeah, guys. So that's great. So that'll wrap up this episode here of Weather Exposed. If you've got an idea for a topic next week, something you're really interested in, tweet us, email us, text us. I don't know.
Anything.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask for my number. I'm not going to give it to you. But yeah, I mean, get a hold of us. Let us know what you would have in mind and what kind of questions
or who you'd like to see on here or anything.
And I told Kirk today, if I am coming into the office closer to Thanksgiving and he's not wearing his Carhartt, I'm going to be pissed.
I'm going to be pissed too.
I'm not going to deal with it.
If I'm not wearing my Santa Claus costume, I'm going to be upset.
He literally has come in a Santa Claus costume before.
We're putting up a Christmas tree November 1.
He wanted me to put one up yesterday.
We just went to Cracker Barrel. They have Christmas apparel and things everywhere. I'm ready.
Nathan wouldn't be opposed to it.
No, not at all.
Skip ahead. I'm ready. I'm ready for snow. I got a new baby. We're ready to celebrate. We're excited.
Guys, that's all we got for episode 2 of Weather Exposed. Tweet us your thoughts or comments or ideas or questions for next week. We love you. See ya.